Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and now we're joined over the phone by Engineer Abdel Salama, the economic expert. Engineer Salama, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, good evening.
Good evening, sir. Engineer Salama, now we're talking about starting the implementation of the second phase of the Decent Life Initiative. But let me ask you, it is a governmental presidential initiative, but a lot of parties are participating in this initiative: the public sector, the government, the private sector, the NGOs, and the volunteer as well. Now, how much should we depend, or who should do more of the work? Is it the public sector or the private sector or the volunteer work or the NGOs and the civil society organizations? Now, who should be really carrying most of the loads, be it actually implementing physically and the engineering and the designing of the initiative and the projects, and also financially?
Well, let's start with who is going to do it or who should be involved. I believe personally, and this is not an official opinion, it is my personal opinion, all of what you just said, government parties, private sector parties, NGOs, volunteers, whatever you name, because we are speaking about a real, big, huge project affecting the entire life of 60% of the Egyptian community. Out of the 100 million people, 60 million people will be not affected, but totally changed life for 60% of the total population of Egypt. So you are not speaking about a small limited project or limited effect project. No, sir. We are speaking about a major life changing for a percentage of 60% of the total population of Egypt. And this deserves the effort of all the different sectors, as you mentioned. On the second side, financially, it is done, well, I know that every single project now is done in Egypt all over the different projects. There is a percentage to be paid from those who are doing this project to be paid for this Haya Karima, or as we say, as you said, decent life project. So the financing is coming from every single person in this society, working in this society.
Well, Dr. Adli, now, when we're talking about the implementation of the project, now, the whole country and the whole world is turning to sustainable development. Egypt has its own goals to achieve the Sustainable Development UN goals by 2030. We're talking about green energy, environmental economy, all of these things. Does it make it easier for such goals and plans to be implemented during such a major national initiative, or is it harder now to try and just not reimagine the whole Egyptian countryside in a traditional way, but now imagining it in a much more environmentally friendly, green, economic, sustainably developmental countryside? Does it make it harder or easier?
No, well, I really trust the population of this country. This country is really a real, let me try to find the word, a real old, very well, some people say not organized, but we are really a good country in the sense that when we are feeling and convinced of something to do, then you will find that every single person is participating. What I'm saying is that I have a feeling, because I'm involved in different stages in this project, I have a feeling that everyone involved in it, working in it, as engineering, as implementation, as construction, as factories to supply materials, every one of it is really motivated in the right direction. So, no, I think, again, I would say that everybody is very much motivated, and this is Egypt, if we say. This is the summary of the whole history of Egypt.
Mm-hmm. Now, Engineer Salama, do you feel that we need any sort of help from foreign investors, foreign companies, international expertise or know-how as part of the development and the implementation of such an initiative, or are we actually self-sufficient in terms of technology and know-how to implement this initiative?
Well, I'm involved in some aspects in power, in water, wastewater, some constructions here and there. I think we can meet the criteria needed for this project, technology-wise. Number two, do we have enough labor to do it? I believe we have enough labor to do it. But let me put the question in different way. According to the presidential planning, we had to do it in certain time, very short time. I think to a very good extent we can meet that. We don't need foreign companies to do it. As a material, I would believe 99% of the materials needed, it can be supplied locally. On the other hand, I am actually requesting from different authorities that they promote more the localization of the materials, and this will be enough to build a good start for a local industry to meet the specification. And for your knowledge, the Egyptian factories, if it does have some sort of support, not financial support as political support, the production will be definitely in the same level as international standards.
Well, sir, you've mentioned the pace of the implementation of not just this initiative, but basically all of the national mega projects that have been taking place over the past few years. We've seen the president cut a lot of the time, talked about the speedy implementation of all sorts of projects. Now, with the pace that we're going with right now for the first phase and starting the implementation of the second phase, are we good on time? Do we need to go faster? How long would it take to actually cover over 4,600 villages throughout the whole country?
Well, they are putting a certain program. It is short program, but I think a good percentage of that program is already covered. I mean, as it starts, and taking into consideration one fact that at the beginning of anything, of any project, of any even study, at the beginning it will be slow a little bit, and then the speed goes higher with more experience, accumulated knowledge of how to handle things, and no, I believe we can do it, and I of course we have we had a similar project a few years ago when we were extending the Suez Canal, and there were a discussion. The Suez Canal people were proposing 3 years to complete the construction of this phase in the Suez Canal, and the government decided to make it 1 year instead of 3 years, which looked at that time very impossible, near to the impossible. But the project was completed. At least the canal as a canal was completed in 1 year, and the people, as I remember, they were working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year. So they did it. No, I think this is what is meant by Egypt. This is the mentality. If we are under pressure, we can absorb and do it.
Yes. Engineer Salama, pardon, one final question because we're running out of time. Now, there is serious political will behind the Decent Life Initiative, and we've seen all the cooperation and coordination among all the governmental institutions and the ministries participating in this initiative. But do you feel that we also need to have some sort of a vision and a strategy and a plan to follow up the achievements of this initiative, just to make sure everything is being maintained and fully supplied by all the necessary resources for such an initiative to be a sustainable initiative?
I believe your question is divided in two directions. Number one, are there a proper planning program and a proper management of the project? I feel yes, because it's multitask management, multitask evaluation. I understand that every authority is supervising what they are doing, and they are making program per every 2 weeks. And on the other direction, the top management is having directly through another lines of management, they are checking and making sure that the program is going and evaluating it. This is done, definitely. But let me reply to the other part of the question. Do we need to revise the planning? Do we need to revise after the first part or the first phase? Do we need to revise to do it more professionally? The reply is very clear. Yes, there are no ever project, huge project, to be done successfully unless every certain time we have to evaluate what is the problems, how can we overcome it, what is expected, what's next. We better start with this one before this one. This is very normal thing in a big project. This is definitely so. Both of them are correct. Number one, today following and management is done to a very good extent. Number two, do we need to revise? Yes, we need to revise and overcome a little bit. And the revision is there, which I believe should be really in a very important point, is to revise, to try to make it maximum localization material, maximum localization.
Engineer Abdel Maguid Salama, the economic expert, thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, obviously such an initiative, as we've mentioned before, is a turning point, not just for Egypt's countryside and villages, but for the whole of the country, for over 50% of the 102 million Egyptian citizens. Definitely not just a step, it's a leap forward into a modern, new Egypt, a move forward in the right direction, and hopefully we're going to be talking not just of the second phase of the implementation of the Decent Life Initiative, but hopefully we're going to be talking about the completion of the Decent Life Initiative. And on that note, we wish you a very best wishes and happy returns for the Eid al-Fitr feast. Ladies and gentlemen, Stay tuned for more coming up on Al International. I'm Henny Saif. Thank you for joining us.